My name is Ian Paul. I'm an artist and activist and a writer, and I'm presently based in Barcelona. The Guantanamo Bay Museum of Art and History is a fictional museum that's based on the premise that the Guantanamo Bay prison has been closed and replaced by a museum which kind of historicizes and remembers what occurred at the prison. In addition to the virtual kind of iteration of the project, there are also many kind of in-person and physical installations in museums and universities around the world. And it's a way of thinking about its significance in different kind of geopolitical contexts, both within the United States, but also in many sites throughout Europe and North Africa, other places. What we see here is actually the Guantanamo Bay Museum of Art and History as it exists on Google Maps. And so in a lot of my artistic practice, I'm interested in kind of hacking or exploiting kind of already existing systems of representation and kind of information. And so we found a kind of workaround to actually get the museum to exist as a real place kind of on Google Maps next to the actual prison itself. So when you arrive at the museum, this is the page you're presented with. And so it kind of presents the fiction to you immediately. It has a kind of rotating slideshow inviting you to explore different kinds of the museum, different parts of the museum. And it presents the fiction kind of right off the bat. So the director kind of welcomes you, declares the prison has been closed, and invites you to explore the museum that remembers it. One thing we're very interested in is in producing new kinds of political imagination. And so allowing people to imagine the closure of the prison and kind of inhabit that space as a real space, as a space of possibility, I think is really crucial for thinking about what we're doing as artists. And so there's this kind of way in which there's a correlation between how able people are to imagine something and how able people are to actually achieve something. And so kind of occupying that space of imagination is very important for us, and that's how we think about our political work. So as you kind of navigate through this section, you see artworks from different people which were involved in the development of the museum. And so they were kind of part of imagining this project and how it came together, and also produced new works to be exhibited in the museum itself. For example, performing the torture playlist, which was a work produced by Adam Harms. And this is a work that kind of approaches the question of popular culture and national kind of identity and culture and its relation to the Guantanamo Bay prison. In this kind of hour-long looped video, what you see is a kind of montage of various karaoke videos. All these karaoke videos feature songs that were used as a form of mental torture. This work, I think, is very provocative and effective because it really reveals the intimacy with a certain kind of American national imagination and the way it conceives of an institution like Guantanamo as being kind of constructed in defense of the national project. Moving along, another important section of the museum is the Center for Critical Studies. And in the Center for Critical Studies, we've chosen to feature 4 essays, which are kind of reflect on the history of the prison and the significance of the prison. The speculative nature of the museum is also important to us because in a way, the closure of the prison is one kind of problem we're confronting as activists and artists. But also the question of kind of national remembrance is equally important. And so thinking about how we remember past atrocities, how we remember kind of historical violence, and how do we try to prevent the kind of arrival of new kinds of violence is also central to the project, and I think central to the ways that we imagine institutions like museums as remembering these kinds of things. there's a way in which remembering the past is really kind of entangled with the kinds of future that we want to produce. We thought we would open the museum, send out a bunch of press releases, and kind of create a kind of media drama around the prison and its closure. And so there's a way in which the museum kind of marches on autonomously on its own without us really being very involved, simply because the prison continues to have a life of its own. As we approach the 20-year history of the prison, it also kind of coincides with the 10-year anniversary of the museum. And I think about it as being committed to that kind of pedagogical work, as a kind of reminder, as a kind of demand that we don't forget that these things kind of arrived and were constructed in the world at a particular point. And that fact is being intimately linked to the possibility or the understanding that we can undo them and we can dismantle them.